The movie starts with a single egg yolk that gets injected with a strange green liquid, causing it to duplicate. Meanwhile, on the Walk of Fame, a star is set up for Elizabeth Sparkle, who quickly becomes one of the biggest celebrities. But as time passes, her fame begins to fade, and soon, people hardly remember her. Hardly anyone remembers who she is. We then meet Elizabeth, a faded Hollywood star still running her aerobics show. On her birthday, the crew celebrates her. But things get weird when she mistakenly walks into the men's bathroom. Harvey rushes in, phone in hand, not noticing Elizabeth. He's desperately looking for a young, attractive woman to take over the show, wondering how someone like Elizabeth has kept it going for so long. Once he leaves, Elizabeth looks at her reflection in the mirror and sees only her wrinkles. Later, Harvey meets with her for lunch and tells her the show is getting a revamp because it's time for a change. The news hits Elizabeth hard, making her feel discarded due to her age. On her way home, she sees her younger self being taken down from a billboard. Distracted by this, she doesn't see a truck coming, leading to a heavy crash. Even though the accident was severe, the hospital tells Elizabeth she doesn't have a single scratch. Still, she's overwhelmed and starts crying as they read her medical history. Feeling awkward, the doctor steps out, leaving the nurse to check her spine one last time. After the exam, he gives her back her jacket and says goodbye. As Elizabeth leaves the hospital, she finds a small package in her pocket with a flash drive labeled The Substance, a phone number, and a note promising real change. Suddenly, a man approaches, saying he recognizes her. It's Fred, an old schoolmate, warmly greets Elizabeth and tells her he always thought she was the most beautiful woman. He gives her his number, hoping to reconnect. But feeling awkward, Elizabeth quickly takes the damp paper and rushes off. Her worst fear has come true. She has officially been fired from her own show. Now, just a memory of her former self. Feeling lost, she looks through the mysterious package. In the video, a voice asks if she's ever dreamed of being younger and more beautiful. The video says she can get all her youth and beauty back with a simple injection that unlocks her DNA, creating a renewed version of herself. The substance uses her own body as a matrix, allowing her to live as a better version of herself for a week. After that, she returns to her original form, repeating the cycle every week. Even with two versions of herself, she'll always remain the same person. The video ends, and Elizabeth, shocked by its absurdity, throws it in the trash. Later, she ends up in a bar, drinking away her sorrows. She stumbles home, only to throw it all up, and finds herself staring at her wrinkles in the bathroom mirror. She tries to recall her days as a glamorous Hollywood star, but the memories do little to comfort her. In desperation, she digs the USB drive out of the trash and calls the number to place an order. She writes down the address they give her. The next morning, while reading the newspaper, she comes across a casting call to replace her on her own show. The ad says they're only looking for women aged 18 to 30. Fueling her frustration, checking her mail, she finds an envelope with the substance's symbol and a single number inside. Determined to take back her life, she heads to the address she wrote on her hand. She walks through the city suburbs and reaches a locked door. Using the card from her mail, she opens it and steps into a dark, dirty hallway. At the end, she finds a white room filled with drawers. She finds the number matching her card and pulls out a cardboard box. Back at her luxurious home, she opens it to find instructions, an activator, stabilizer, the agent of change, and special food for the mysterious procedure. The package also includes warnings and eerie reminders. Determined, she stands before the mirror, inspecting every wrinkle, spot, and mole. She remembers the video's promises of making her young and beautiful again, hoping for a better version of herself. She takes the activation capsule and fills a syringe with the green liquid. After tying off her arm and disinfecting it, she injects the substance. Elizabeth watches herself in the mirror, waiting for a change, but nothing happens. She laughs at herself and prepares to leave when suddenly dizziness hits her. Intense pain takes over and she collapses, writhing on the floor. Her back starts to twist, her skin pulling away from her spine, while her eyes struggle to stay in their sockets. From the opening in her back, a new form slowly emerges. This figure clumsily stands and looks down at Elizabeth's body on the floor. As it rises, the mirror shows a young, stunning woman staring back. The scene is surreal. The new Elizabeth's eyes glow faintly green. She admires her new curves, but when she looks at the lifeless body she came from, she vomits a disgusting green fluid. With no choice, she takes a needle and thread and sews up the opening in her old body. After finishing, she injects the substance into its vein. Now, Elizabeth is split into two versions of herself. The young, vibrant Elizabeth sleeps in her bed, while the Matrix's lifeless body lies on the cold bathroom floor. Even her voice is different. The sound makes her nose bleed, reminding her she needs to take the daily stabilizer immediately. This process involves extracting a white liquid from the body on the floor with a large syringe, struggling to stay conscious. Quickly, she injects one of the 7 capsules into her leg, now youthful and beautiful again. She glances at the newspaper, searching for her replacement. Without hesitation, she quickly heads to the audition and picks up a provocative outfit on the way. At the audition, judges have seen many girls who fail to meet their high beauty standards. But when they see Elizabeth's flawless, curvy figure, they are left speechless. They quickly ask for her name, and she confidently says, Sue. Soon after, Sue is at Harvey's mansion, the show's producer, who's excited to meet what he sees as the perfect replacement for the old Elizabeth. He tells her they want a show that matches her beauty, and reveals it will premiere in 2 weeks. Before leaving, Sue mentions she has to travel every 2 weeks to care for her mother. But Harvey, obsessed with his new star, is eager to adjust the schedule so she can be there. As she heads home, she enjoys the attention she hasn't felt in years. The next 6 days are filled with managing her stabilizer, doing countless photo shoots, and posting her flawless images. Even with her busy schedule, she still cares for the Matrix. She carefully plans her choreographies, enjoying her renewed youth. But as the 7 days end, the Matrix's last bit of food is gone. At that moment, Sue connects the IVs between her and Elizabeth's body. As the old Elizabeth's blood enters her, Sue suddenly faints. Moments later, the original Elizabeth wakes from her coma, feeling the weight of the unconscious young woman on top of her. She pushes her off, wincing at the pain in her back. Looking at her perfect version, Elizabeth chooses to continue with her life, knowing normalcy is gone. That morning, she heads to the set, where Harvey has removed all her photos. Seeing her, he smiles and says he's been waiting to buy her a drink. However, instead of celebrating, Harvey gives her a box of belongings, saying the team got her a farewell gift. His words bring no joy to Elizabeth, and after a quick goodbye, he walks away. Returning home, she finds Sue's lifeless body still on the cold bathroom floor. Elizabeth starts keeping careful notes on the days she switches bodies, tracking which days belong to each version. On her second day, she finds a letter from her supplier, telling her the next batch is ready at the usual spot in the neighborhood. Back home, Elizabeth checks the bathroom to see how much food Sue has left. Sue will return next week, while Elizabeth stays lifeless in the bathroom. Elizabeth starts searching the house for a secret space within the walls. She spends days breaking down the bathroom wall, until an irritated neighbor comes over to confront her about the noise. However, Sue introduces herself as the new tenant, and Oliver, her neighbor, apologizes for the interruption, offering his help. Once home, Sue moves Elizabeth's body to the secret room she built in the bathroom and locks it away. She then replaces the old photos with ones that reflect her new identity. At another moment, the new TV show begins, and our young, beautiful star steals the spotlight, dancing to the energetic music. As the show ends, she waves goodbye to the audience, mimicking the signature gesture Elizabeth once used. The new star gets a standing ovation from her coworkers, and she begins to feel the thrill of her revived career. On the last day of her week, she dresses up for a night out with her castmates, eager to enjoy her youthful body. But as the Matrix food runs low, it holds her back from fully enjoying the moment her nose starts bleeding. And feeling dizzy, she quickly excuses herself from Troy and heads to the bathroom, where she finds Elizabeth finishing her meal. Struggling with the pain, Sue remembers it's time to switch bodies, but instead, she takes another capsule to stabilize herself, even though her turn is up. Once she feels better, she goes back to the couch with Troy to continue having fun. As he unzips his suit, her insides begin to spill out, followed by a choked scream from Elizabeth, who rises alongside her other version. In the bathroom, she sees the chaos and a note from Troy on the window. As she moves closer to read it, She's horrified to see one of her fingers has aged rapidly, now looking rotten. Terrified, she rushes to the bathroom to check her body and finds the hole from last night's extraction isn't healing. Desperate, she calls the number on the USB drive, reporting the substance's side effects. She admits to using it a few hours too long and begs for help to fix it. However, the man on the phone tells her nothing can be done, as both versions are the same person and must follow the balance set for them. Later, while cleaning, she watches her other self dancing to the music on TV. She turns it off with her rotting finger, just as her neighbor Oliver rings the doorbell. She silently watches Oliver from behind the door as he asks Sue out for a drink. With no response, he leaves, giving her space. Later, when Elizabeth gets the notice for her refill, she goes to pick it up in the usual suburb, but hears a noise that unsettles her. Feeling paranoid, she enters a coffee shop to calm down. An old man nearby remarks that the 7-day effect seems to last long. She spots a mark on his hand, recalling that the nurse who treated her had the same mole. At that moment, the old man drops his belongings, revealing a card just like hers, but with a different number. Elizabeth realizes he's been following her. He admits he was curious about how she's doing. Though she insists she's fine, he talks about the emotional turmoil that led them both to make this choice. Unable to listen any longer, Elizabeth leaves and bumps into Troy, who rudely tells an old lady to move so he can get to his motorcycle. Back home, she frantically searches for Fred's number, remembering that no matter her appearance, Fred always thought she was the most beautiful woman he knew. She calls Fred, saying she's been busy, and they plan a date that night. Dressed in her best outfit, Elizabeth is about to leave when she notices Sue's shiny lips. She returns to the mirror to fix her makeup, but Sue's reflection haunts her, reminding her that her glory days are over. Elizabeth spends more time fixing her makeup, but Sue's presence keeps haunting her. Frustrated, she goes back to the mirror again, trying to match Sue's perfection, until she finally wipes it all off. Defeated, she ignores Fred's calls. A week later, Sue takes control once more. During a shoot, Sue feels something strange in her body, causing her to stop. The director, noticing something odd on the screen, calls for a retake. Nervous, Sue grabs her clothes and rushes off the set. Alone, Sue finds a strange lump on her butt and pushes it up to her belly, pulling out a large chicken leg. Furious, she calls the number to complain about Elizabeth's bad eating habits, but the operator reminds her they are the same person. Later that day, Sue returns to the set and learns the morning show is canceled. Harvey calls her in and announces that, because of her success and popularity, she'll host the biggest show of all, the New Year's special. From then on, Sue takes the substance daily, changing the schedule to make sure she's in control during New Year's week. However, the side effects begin to show on Elizabeth. A disgusting boil forms on her back, and she wakes up screaming when she sees half her body has rotted. Furious, she calls the operator to complain about Sue, accusing her of taking more time than allowed. The operator asks if she wants to end it, reminding her that as the Matrix, she has the power to stop it. However, he warns the damage is irreversible, but she can prevent more harm. Despite this, Elizabeth refuses to return to her old life and starts feeling the mental toll of her situation. Later, sitting on the couch, Elizabeth realizes her joints are failing. From then on, she painfully adjusts herself. While cooking, she spots a cookbook Harvey had gifted her. She then watches an interview with Sue on TV, fueling her hatred. The host praises Sue as the perfect replacement for Elizabeth Sparkle. Sue stirs things up by admitting she never watched Elizabeth's show, saying they're from different generations and that Elizabeth's show was for older women. Full of resentment, Elizabeth cooks more, determined to outshine what she sees as a cheap imitation. She listens carefully to the host's final question to Sue, who is asked about her beauty secret. Sue simply replies that she's just being herself and credits it all to her good nature. Enraged by Sue's comment, Elizabeth loses control, slams the TV, and blocks the windows to avoid seeing her. She knows what's happening, but feels powerless, believing Sue has stolen everything from her. When Sue returns and sees the mess Elizabeth made, she drains as much fluid from her matrix as possible, trying to avoid switching back, pulling a dangerous amount from the decaying body. 3 months later, as the New Year's show approaches, Sue is ready for her big break into stardom. The night before, she searches for stabilizer, but only finds a rotten substance in the capsule, putting all her plans at risk. Desperate, Sue hides from her partner in the apartment and calls her supplier, asking for more stabilizing fluid. The man on the line tells her she must wait for the liquid to regenerate before getting more. Sue, struggling with the pain, knows the only way to save herself is by switching back, which would reset the fluid process. But with her presentation the next day, she refuses. Collapsing in the kitchen, she drags herself to the bathroom. She tries to grab what she needs, but some items fall, making noise that alerts her partner. When he comes to check, she quickly shuts the door, hiding her decayed form. Desperate, she tells him to leave, and once alone, she searches the house for her phone to call her supplier. She tells him she wants to end the experience right away, but he just says they'll deliver what she needs soon. The decayed version of Elizabeth tries to put her old picture back in place. The next morning, she receives a notification that her final package has arrived. She wraps herself in rags and hurries to the suburb to pick up her order. Returning quickly, she drags Sue's body into the light of the living room. As she opens the cardboard box, the first thing she sees is an apology from the creators. Then, she picks up the syringe filled with black liquid that promises to end her experience. Just as she's about to inject it into Sue's chest, the man's voice echoes in her mind, asking if she's sure. He warns her that this won't bring back normalcy. It will just reset everything. Desperate, she pushes the syringe into Sue's heart and, after a moment of doubt, slowly injects the liquid. But in the process, Elizabeth notices motivational notes for Sue's upcoming presentation and remembers her own glory days in the spotlight. Regretting her choice to take that chance away, she can't finish administering the substance. Realizing she needs Sue, Elizabeth tells her to get ready because today is her time to shine. Sue represents the part of her that everyone loves, but her efforts are in vain when the young woman's nose starts to bleed heavily. Elizabeth looks for the IV to make the switch, but the blood has stopped flowing in Sue's body. In a desperate move, Elizabeth plunges the needle into her own heart, hoping to revive Sue. Suddenly, Sue wakes up, and Elizabeth watches in shock, knowing it's impossible for them to be conscious at the same time. The beautiful young woman sees the syringe with the lethal substance on the carpet and, filled with rage, attacks Elizabeth for trying to get rid of her. They fight for their survival, and Elizabeth locks herself in the bathroom. But the latch fails, and Sue breaks in. Sue strikes her again, forcing Elizabeth to look in the mirror before slamming her head against the reflection repeatedly. Weakened and vulnerable, Elizabeth tries to crawl away, but Sue quickly catches up and kicks her hard. She continues to attack until Elizabeth is left as a limp sack of organs. However, when Sue realizes they are one and the same, she breaks down in tears, knowing she has sealed her own fate. Despite this, the big night awaits her. Sue arrives on set for the New Year's Live special. Everyone admires her beauty, but this version, with her senses clouded, starts to fade as her matrix dies. The side effects push her to the bathroom, where suddenly, one of her teeth falls out. Gradually, her beautiful smile crumbles, and the pressure of the show drives her into despair. The image of the activating substance fills her mind, pushing her to leave the bathroom in search of it. Just as she tries to exit, Harvey stops her to introduce her to the investors, asking her to smile. Once she finally escapes from the men, each step Sue takes hurts her even more. Her nails fall off, her ears detach, and she runs home, battling dizziness and the sense that her end is near. In desperation, she reaches the bathroom and grabs the jar of the once green activator. Through tears, she fills the syringe and injects the yellow substance into her veins, hoping to regain a better version of herself. However, the process Elizabeth experienced begins to happen to Sue. Since the substance was only meant for one use, she sees a terrifying creature in the mirror, a result of the clone's faulty mutation, not the original. This monster, now called Elisa Sue, recalls how the casting judges praised her beauty, saying every part of her body was perfectly in place. Now there's no clear anatomy, and this creature chooses to wear the beautiful dress Sue used to wear. As she heads to the bathroom, her 3 hairs get caught in the curling iron. She places a picture of Elizabeth on her face before stepping out for the biggest show of her career. The monster goes unnoticed behind the paper mask, receiving cheers for her presence. But it's all just an illusion from her twisted mind. The entire audience eagerly awaits Sue's arrival, But when the lights dim and the show starts, a horrific creature walks among the beautiful dancers until it stands in the spotlight. There, the creature speaks terrifying words, and its mask crumbles, revealing a deformed face that slowly pushes a breast through an opening. Screams fill the venue as everyone tries to stop the abomination. But when they decapitate it, a new head grows back, and its limbs begin to break apart, splattering the audience with blood and fluids. The venue erupts into chaos as the creature decides to escape. Suddenly, it falls apart and is destroyed, yet it remains aware. A small piece of the monster crawls back to where it all started, the center of Elizabeth Sparkle's fame, marking the end of the story of one of Hollywood's most beautiful stars. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this.